Tell me if I'm going live, Charles.
It says live right there now.
Great. Oh, for the third time today, the technology is appears to be in our favor. Hey everybody, how you doing? Chef AJ here. If you were on earlier, hopefully you got to see the legendary John McDougall. It's up on YouTube now if you missed it. And today we're having a different type of guest. He is a comedian, a comic, and he's very funny. Can't promise how funny he'll be on this because we're here just I like to interview interesting people that have helped me in my life and helped shape who I am. And I have taken his class on and off for many years when I lived in Los Angeles. And I am not happy about what is happening in the world with COVID, of course. And the reason I'm doing these broadcasts is to keep people connected and somewhat entertained, because we can't just watch the news 24 hours a day. It's too depressing and it's not good for our mental health. And they always say that laughter is the best medicine. So I've decided to go back into stand-up comedy during my hiatus as Chef AJ, because all the conferences are canceled. I can't travel anyway. So I'm going back to my roots. And Cary has been my teacher for many years. He's a fabulous performer, but also a teacher and a writer. And he's going to be teaching his class online. So all of you can take the class with me. And we're going to tell you about it. We're going to tell you a little bit about Cary. Here's the website. And welcome, Cary Odes.
Hi, Chef AJ. It's so wonderful to see you.
I know, it's so good to see you. I'm so excited to have this opportunity that, like I said, I'm not happy about the virus, but up until then, you never really offered your classes online. And believe me, I don't want to drive 3 hours to LA to take it. So now,
exactly. You know, when you studied with me just about a year ago, and then you were moving out into the desert, I thought I never see you again. But now we get to play regardless of how far away people are. So that's very exciting.
I know they say the number one fear is public speaking, and I'm a public speaker and I don't feel that's true, but I would say that for many people, the number one fear is stand-up comedy. Why do you think it's so scary to so many people, except for those of you who do it professionally?
Well, I think there's, first of all, it is scary. When I first did it, I was scared. Most people just see the fear first, but they don't realize how much fun it is. And when you're on stage doing it right, it is so much fun. You can't believe it. You can't believe it's legal, that you could be having that much fun. And I get that from my students all the time after they get off stage at their showcase. That was the most fun, I can't believe it. And what I want to do, the reason I love teaching is because I get to give you that experience the first time out. You don't have to, mess around for 2 years till you finally have a good show. You can really have that experience. People are also afraid because we've been taught, in English classes, how to prepare for a speech, and everybody's very tight and feeling judged. And there's a lot of parts of public speaking that I can disassemble. I can just wipe that off to the side. You're not up there to prove yourself, to judge or be judged. It's just about playing. So once I get you in that mindset, I can teach you how to not fail or feel nervous at all.
What's so interesting about the classes I've taken with you is that so many of the people are not professional actors. They've never done stand-up. They're regular people. I've been in the class where there have been doctors and lawyers and food servers, and I mean almost every profession, and they've all succeeded their first time on stage.
Well, what I like to think is people who don't have any background are often better suited because they're not going to be fake about it. They're just going to bring themselves. So sometimes they have less to overcome than somebody who's tried it or somebody who's an actor. Sometimes those people have to learn to let go of what they think they should be doing. I just, being that we're all inside and hunkered down, I've gotten to go back and listen to old tapes in the last few weeks of my own acts, TV shows I did 20 years ago. And I realized, wow, I was trying too hard. I was making a living at it. I was doing really well. I had a good career, but I was trying too hard. And I've learned how to not do that now, and I can teach you guys to do that without wasting time. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, when I think of great comedians, of course, one of the first people to pop into my head is Jerry Seinfeld. He recently performed here at Agua Caliente.
Really?
Yeah, he was great. I had like fourth row seats because he's a good friend of my good friend Steve Middleman's, and he got us into the—
Oh yeah, Middleman's great.
And we got to meet Jerry, and he couldn't be any nicer. And I hear he's vegan or almost vegan now. But why is he so good? Like, do you ever can you study other comedians, and can you actually explain why he is so good?
Well, comics back, he's in my class. All right, he's the same era. He came out to the Comedy Store just a few months after I got there. He came out about 2 months after I started there, but he was already a king in New York. And we all watch comics, watch each other, minutely. We watch every little thing they do. And what Jerry is he's incredibly precise. His images, his thoughts are so well calculated and so well distilled. So he's both a genius at what he does, and he worked a little harder than everyone too. I think we all knew that he worked an hour a day. If I remember correctly, it was just the news around the Comedy Store that Jerry works an hour every day on his act. I thought, it may not seem like much, but at the end of every week, he's 7 hours ahead of everyone else. And at the end of every month, he's, dozens and dozens of hours. So it builds up. He was very methodical about it. And eventually, also, he's a genius. I think there's something about it. He really has a gift. He created, while everyone was trying to do what we call observational comedy about nothing, he could really do it. A lot of guys were like, if you were 80% as good as him, didn't matter. He was just always, God, his images, you just go, oh my God, how did he think of that?
That's incredible. Hey, so Cary, a lot of people join late, so they don't know that we're talking about stand-up comedy in general, and in particular, a workshop that you're going to be offering at a tremendous, almost 50% discount online that I'm actually going to be taking during this shelter.
I'm so happy to be with you again. Go ahead.
So somebody, because we did a live stream with Dr. McDougall, and so Karina says, I was hoping you could talk about constipation on the starch solution. That would be that's a perfect intro for you. I mean, can you talk about it?
About constipation?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's what everyone wants now when we're all out of toilet paper. I mean, I went to the store, there was no toilet paper, but they did have that anti-diarrhea stuff. Like I took a lot of that and I'm done. Wow. I think I can last a month.
That is something. So of course, we never want to be disrespectful to anyone who has this or is sick or has lost loved ones. But at some point, even in darkness, we can find humor, right?
It's very important to do so. And I don't think it's even disrespectful. There are people who are suffering who make their own jokes. I mean, it's happened in the worst of times throughout history that people come up with humor. I think that's why, as a Jew, I know that there's a lot of great Jewish humorists because there's been a lot of suffering. So I don't think we need to be self-righteous beyond what is necessary. Just to lighten it up a little bit. It's I think the reason we're sad at funerals is not just because we lost a loved one, but because we have to wear those uncomfortable shoes. We're all wearing suits and things that were restricted. I don't think we need to be restricted just because times are tough. As long as you're respecting people. And that's one of the things I really am serious about in comedy is I never make someone the point of a joke. You never make someone who's down the butt of your joke. Right. I like people making fun of themselves. I make fun of myself rather than other people.
Absolutely. And that's what I like about the way you teach, because I never cared for comedians like that make fun of people because of a physical appearance and that's getting to be less and less acceptable anyway, even in comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a cheap shot. I would not want to do for a living what some drunk at a bar could do. And you don't want to just mock people. It's much more interesting to mock yourself. If you go on stage and go, my wife is stupid and fat and ugly, and you go, well, you married her, we don't like that guy. But if we go, my wife, she's got to deal with me because I'm an idiot. Like, suddenly I like that guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think what a lot of people are afraid of, and I know I was and am, is the heckling. Because when you think about it, like I've performed improv and I've performed acting, and of course there can always be this outlier that's drunk in a performance, but for the most part, when you're doing theater, people are not engaging with you, even in improv. But there seems to be a thing in comedy, maybe because it's sort of like in a bar, where like the audience feels they can just say whatever they want.
Right. Well, in our showcases, we've never had a heckler, although one time we had a guy with Tourette's syndrome. So that was unusual. But I know that everyone worries about heckling. It never happens to the beginners. I know you had an experience with one guy once in one of your seminars. And I think the most important thing about heckling is just to remember, you don't need to take it personally. It's never really about you. They're going through something. And you can treat them like you would a child who just, starts hitting on you when they're upset. No more personal than that. Like, are you okay? are you all right? Because you seem like you're having a little fit there. And you can be the adult in the situation and not even feel like they knew something like deep about what's wrong in you. That's how a heckler wins, when they go, you stupid. And they go, how did he know?
There was a whole movie about heckling. I can't remember, but did you happen to see it? There was a whole movie
No,
about
no,
heckling.
I didn't. The heckler, I know. I've heard of it.
It was actually really interesting, because no other job, I mean, think about it. People don't go to their doctor or their attorney. Well, now we don't go anywhere, but people generally don't go to the DMV and like start heckling the person behind the counter. But there seems to be this that it's acceptable that if somebody's,
Right.
I just don't understand that.
Yeah, it's certainly not good breeding, but it is, yeah, it's you get a bunch of drunken people together. There's going to be one guy who wants to be the star of the show from the back seat, and it's a cheap way to get attention. But I can teach people ways to deal with hecklers. The first is not to take it personally. The other is never to give them control. I've dealt with hecklers that lasted 20 minutes. Guys who were like there, and you come up to them after the show, they go, "Weren't we good together?" They really think they were helping. So what you have to do is guide them down, like, "Hey, I can do this without you. It's okay." You have to just remind.
If you joined us late, I am talking to my friend and teacher, Cary Odes. He is a very well-known comedian who's done many shows worldwide and in the United States. And I've studied with him stand-up comedy for years. And you can see some of the performances, and Cary, I'm seeing the shows at the Comedy Store and the Improv if you go to my YouTube page. But he is offering his classes now while we're sheltering home online. He's never done that before, at almost a 50% discount. And I'm taking him. And I see that Sally is watching from New York, and she's my friend. And Sally to take the class. And listen, guys, it is so much less scary if you're doing this at home. So we got to have something to do other than watch the news during this time. And of course, unlike the in-person class, Cary can't promise that this is going to end at a showcase at the Comedy Store or the Improv, because we have no idea when these clubs will open, but hopefully we can do it online. And, worst comes to worst, if you're afraid, he won't make you perform, but you learn so much from the class, like how to write a joke, because the way Cary teaches, I've taken many stand-up teachers, and he is the best writer. He will make sure you won't fail. But what people like a lot of times, Cary, there are people in life that are very funny, but they're not doing stand-up. Like, they can really tell a joke. How is stand-up different than just the person at the party that even without alcohol can really tell a joke well?
Well, telling a joke well is wonderful. I was just watching a lot of old jokes online in the last few days. Buddy Hackett, Mel Brooks, telling old jokes, Catskill jokes. And that's a wonderful art. But what we do in my class that I really am proud of, and is really one of the gifts of the class, is we go into our own lives and find out what's going on in our own personal lives, and find ways to make fun of that. The things that are most upsetting to us, most frustrating to us. So, and I know we've dealt with stuff that you were challenged by in your life, whether it was personal stuff or professional stuff.
I did a whole set. People are going to think this is weird, but I did a whole set on my 4 miscarriages and losing babies, because comedy, trauma plus time equals comedy. Like, you never, and again, I'm only making fun of myself, but that was a really, really funny set. I'm not even sure that that's one of the ones that's online available, but the whole set was about the worst trauma I experienced 10 years of my life. And we were able to turn lemons into lemonade.
Right. And the beauty of that is when you're done, you feel suddenly relieved of that. Oh, I don't have to hide that part of myself. In fact, I can even lead with that. I can tell somebody my worst traits and they'll like me more. That's something about comedy that is incredibly empowering. Most people think they have to put on a persona of a cool guy. People see through that right away. But if you come up and go, I'm a dope, you go, I like this guy. Suddenly the audience is really connecting with you because you're not hiding. And one of the things you get out of the show is not just a sense of confidence, but you get a sense of invulnerability. You get a sense of why have I been hiding my whole life? I can just tell someone what I've done that's stupid, and they like me more than they did before.
Donna's saying she'd love to give this class to her husband for his upcoming birthday. So just go to standupworkshop.com. It's the first link I posted, and check it out and register. And if he takes it on Saturday mornings, he can be in the class with Chef
Indeed. AJ. And I've got lots of people give it as gifts. It's a wonderful way to give somebody something special for your husband, for your wife, for your son. I've done entire families over the years. I've done like the mom, the dad, the son, the daughter. So you never know.
My cousin,
I've done you and your husband.
Yeah, my
Charles
husband's been in the class, and you've done my cousin Jeff, who's an emergency room doctor, with his son Sammy, who was able to take the class, but not able to be in the club except for the 5 minutes of his set,
Right.
People don't realize how incredibly long you have to work to even write one joke. Like that's why we work 8 weeks or 7 weeks, and then we have at the 8th week
Right.
recap, but we work 7 weeks basically on a 5-minute set. So when I see these comedians, and even the ones that I think aren't as funny as some others, doing an HBO special for 1 hour, I know how much work went into writing
Sure.
60 minutes of
It could be a
material.
year. It could be a year for them to perfect it. One of the things, though, I want your students to know and your friends to know is not all jokes are so much effort. A lot of jokes fall out of your mouth. Half of my work is just to go, did you see what you just said? We record everything we do in the show, in the classes, because people often just say the funniest thing, not even realizing it is gold. And I know it's gold because I know I can hear it. But to them, it's just, I just said that. Like, no, put that down. That's going to be in your act. So not everything is hard. Sometimes you just get to learn how to complain in the right way. If I can get somebody just complaining for 5 minutes, sometimes I go, you just wrote your act.
What's riffing? Tell me what riffing is.
Well, riffing is, it's especially useful once you already know how to kind of write comedy. I mean, how to go about a line of ideas. But riffing is once you get a great idea, like, dating is like going to war, or I just put that together. But like driving in LA traffic is like being in World War III, and then you just start proving that. You go the first idea, and the second idea, the third idea, and if the audience likes it, you can just expand on it to any way you can get them to go with you. And I've had that happen where you do like 5 new minutes on something you didn't even know before. I had an audience asked who's been married a long time. Somebody said, 49 years. I said, really? Today? She goes, no, on Tuesday. I said, well, that's a long time from now, And I riffed on how they may not make it. That's 4 days. A lot can happen in 4 days. I've been married. I know what you're looking at me like, why am I doing this? And I said, what's the point? 49 years, you don't even get anything good. It's not like gold. It's like, what is 49 years? You get a terrarium? I don't know what that is. So, but it was a wonderful thing to just play with them. Somebody out there? But a funnier comic out the door?
My husband is listening to this interview, but it's causing feedback, so I asked him to close the door.
Okay. Yeah, get him out of the room.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here. That hook, you never have to use that in your show. Do they still use that hook? Remember the old vaudeville hook?
No, that's maybe from the 20s. Although, okay, I've been doing comedy a long time. I think it's 42 years. And when I first started, this whole modern comedy was just new. And I went to more than one show. This happened twice in my early career in Chicago. Once when we played a benefit for the Police Association downtown Chicago. Another was for a veterans home that had World War I veterans in it. And in both those cases, a drummer stayed on to do rim shots. They really, when we went up, they went, they were ready to do that kind of old vaudeville shtick. Not good for modern comedy.
Wow. So guys, if you're interested in taking the class or finding out more, type your questions in and I'll be happy to ask them to Cary. It's an 8-week class. 7 of the weeks we work together. And what's nice is, what I've always loved about the classes is that you have more than one person working on your material. And so at least what happens for me is that you bring what Cary's going to teach you, what a premise is, into the class. He gets to know you and to figure out what would be a good topic for you to talk about for those 5 minutes. And as you share it with the class week after week, the class throws out ideas where the jokes, which were really good, end up becoming great. And it's amazing. And just the idea that you're recording yourself, like he tells us to get a little tape recorder, like a cheap one at whatever those stores are.
Or your phone.
Or your phone, right? That's right. Our phones can do it now, so that you can, because in comedy, it's really important to listen, because when you talk and you've recorded it, you know what gets the laugh. And I do that even when I speak non-funny. Like when I do PowerPoints, a lot of times I'll say things that are funny just accidentally, and then I keep them in the next time.
Right.
And so without the audio recording, you might miss that. And this is just good for anybody that's trying to speak in any class.
Another thing the class does that's great is they remember the joke you did the week before, and they go, why don't you do that thing? You had the duffel bag bit. So their memory of something is very important. If you remember a joke, it's good. So we use them as a sounding board to what to keep in. And one of the things we're going to be able to do this time online is there's going to be a lot more time to look at, favorite comedians, how a joke is built, jokes you already know. So we're going to be bringing in some things that we haven't done in the live classes, some things that'll be special just for this class.
That sounds incredible. I think a lot of people are afraid, and doing it online has to be a lot less scary than doing it the first time on the stage.
Exactly. You don't even have to wear pants.
Well, I'm not wearing pants right now. No, I'm actually wearing pants, but I have been wearing my pajama pants a lot during this time doing.
I know.
Who's your favorite comic or comedian? And what's the difference? Like, what's the proper, now with everything with gender fluidity, you can't really say comedian or like what is your profession? Like on your income tax, what do you say?
I think it says I've forgotten. I have my income tax right here.
Are you in a different location? Because that doesn't look like the place I've seen you at. Because Laurel says it's a beautiful painting on the wall behind you.
Oh, thank you. This is actually wood. This is inlaid wood from an artist from Venice, California.
Are you in the Palisades right now?
What's that?
Are you in the Palisades right now?
Yeah, I'm in the Palisades right now. I'm looking at here's my tax return from last year. And, that's just the income tax return. What does it say? I think it says comedian. Well, God, I'm getting sad just looking at it. Why am I looking at my, I'm looking at my tax forms.
And how much did you make last year? Hey, Charles, if you're watching this, what does it say on my tax return? Because when people ask me what I do for a living, I'm like, I don't really know. I mean, I talk, but I'm not sure what I say. I'm an author, a speaker, a chef, a culinary instructor, stand-up comedian to that. I'm not sure it gets any easier though for me.
Oh, it's comedian.
Yeah. And so why sometimes they're called comics and sometimes we call them comedians?
Well, a comic is a little less precise in some ways. I think it's very common to say that. I think that I like stand-up because it tells you what type of comic. You could be many things if you're a comedian. You could be a comic actor. You could be a mime. I don't know. I don't know what's the best way to say it. I often say I'm a stand-up because then it shows them exactly, got the mic stand, you get the image right there. Humorist is another way to, that's the more elegant way to say it. I think of Will Rogers as a humorist. And I aspire to that.
A lot of times we'll see people that do stand up and end up having like a film career, but you don't often see it the other way around, right? Like you don't see people that are established actresses and actors then all of a sudden go into stand up, do you?
That's very interesting. I never thought of that before. Yeah, it's a hard thing. You got to study it for years before you're good enough to do it. You don't just dabble at stand up. It takes, it could take you a number of years to really get your chops. And then we find out a lot of them are great actors, Robin Williams and Jay Moore, and a lot of these people are really good actors. I'm just honored to be with people who have that much native talent, that our career happens to have that much. Yeah, Tim Allen. A lot of people didn't think he knew how to act. In fact, his co-star, Patricia Richardson, I worked on Home Improvement with them for years. And at first she said, I didn't think he'd be able to act because he's a comic. And she was just amazed how talented he was.
Well, Ray Romano
we're used to relating to the audience. We're used to being real. If you're not real as a comic, you won't sell your jokes.
Ray Romano was in The Irishman.
Why? Yes. True.
Yeah, I mean, and I thought he was excellent, and he, so I think it's interesting that you said you don't, or you can't dabble in comedy, because I say the same thing to my clients for weight loss, that if you're really interested in being healthy and lose weight, you cannot dabble in weight loss. You have to dedicate a large amount of your life and your time to, figuring out a solution. And I think it's the same thing. But we're not asking any of you guys to be stand-up comedians. We're trying to give you something fun to do for the next few weeks, where we're probably still going to be self-quarantined, that you can do at home online at a fraction of the cost. And you can do it with me and possibly my husband too, if I can convince him. I think he's
got to come back. I beg him.
You know what, before I met you, Cary, because I'll be honest, I had two teachers before you, and one of them was good. And of course, you know her because you ended up working for her. And then, because,
Yeah.
so she was excellent. Of course, we're talking about Judy Carter, who has a fabulous book that people could read. But I'm not going to say the name of this other teacher that I didn't resonate with because he was kind of mean. But what was kind of fun about it is I actually took it with my husband and we did a duet together, like on stage. It was very good, like about our marriage. And maybe I can get him to do that again because we had jokes like, we'd come out and I say something like, Charles and I have had 10 happy years together. And then he'd say something, unfortunately, we've been married 20, stuff like that.
Classic. I'm sure there's vaudeville acts
Yeah,
that similar.
that's so good.
It's wonderful to get a couple on. Yeah. If anyone wants to do that, I will, I would beg them to do it together. That would be fun to have like a couple show with
I
more
would
than
love to get
you and Charles and then another couples. Any of you guys out there?
Hey, Mary Canfield wants to know if you also teach improv classes. Mary, you have a husband. Why don't you guys take the class with me and Charles? But you don't teach improv, but improv is different, but it's a beneficial skill too, isn't it? Because
it's a wonderful skill. I studied with Del Close, one of the founders of improv at Second City in Chicago. So that informs everything I do. Everything I almost every day of my life is based on some of the skills I learned at improv. So yes, and a lot of my creative process is based on stuff from Second City. How to create without letting the critic get in your way. I'm trying to think of all the different ways that Del is in my head. So you'll get the benefit of improv training without doing specifically improv training. And when you asked what a riff is, improv, when you riff on a topic, that is a bit of like improv. Yeah. And we do something there's a scene in every one of our jokes. We call it an act out. It's when there's dialogue in a comedy bit. And that is built the same way you'll build an improv scene. I'll teach you the rules of improv scene when we do that.
That's what's great, guys, is Cary teaches you like a foolproof format. Once you decide what your topic is and your premise and the way you construct the jokes, it's so much different than people that you see trying to tell a joke. Well, yesterday I walked down there's a whole format and it's set up, punch. I forget what it is. It's been a year and a half since I've been in the class, but it's a 3-part formula that always works.
It really does. It's kind of like shooting a cannon at a wall. You're going to hit it. And that's something that Judy Carter helped formalize in her book. So I taught all her classes for 7 years. That's where I got the basic layouts of jokes. What did you say before that, though? You were talking about
I was talking about improv a little bit and how I thought might be a good training ground, because I think one of the reasons that I haven't gotten into, well, first of all, there's only one stand-up teacher in the desert and he may be good. I don't know. I haven't explored it yet, but I guess one of the reasons I keep in improv is I feel safer, because I feel that even if I suck, I'm not going to suck alone. You always have one other person in the scene and somebody you can look to, whereas it's stand-up, it's like really without a net, because I'm the only one out there and it's like, oh my God.
By the time you're ready for a show, by the time we've done 8 weeks, I've taught you all sorts of safety nets. You're not just out there without support. I'm going to give you so many different ways to fail and succeed. What we call failing. Like, okay, one guy is always worried about forgetting his lines, but I give you a way to get out of that, which is funnier than if you didn't forget your line. So one of my friends, John Rhodes, who took the class many years ago, he forgot his line. He forgot his act 10 times in 5 minutes. It got funnier every time. He got applause every time he forgot his line. So it can make you very endearing to the audience to do that. One of the things I want to mention, though, is there's a difference in the way I teach it. You were talking about how I teach you how to do it. A lot of guys come study with me and they've been with other classes, and evidently all they do is cheerlead. They go, "That's great, do that. That's great, do that," and they don't give them any direction. I don't just say, "Yay!" I'll make sure that it's crafted so that when you're done with it, it's as good as any professional.
That's amazing. We have some good questions here. Gina wants to know, are we just born funny or not?
Well, there are some people who love, telling jokes or love being the center of attention. And those people are the ones we think of as funny. But then there are a lot of people who are dry funny, that might be shy and only tell one person the joke, or they might just keep it to themselves. So they are funny, but no one knows about it. And what I like to do is draw those people out. And then there are people who have no idea how to do comedy at all. You know, they might not have anything at all, and doesn't mean they can't be funny. I've never said no to anybody, and I've never been disappointed. It's amazing. There are people who think, well, I had a guy who could barely speak English. All right, he was a Vietnamese immigrant. His accent was so thick, I understood maybe once every 10 words. But I thought, let's give it a try, and he ended up being astonishingly funny. So you have no idea what's going to happen. Jimmy Din is his name, by the way. And he came and did the class 3 times. Funnier every time. So you never know who's secretly funny.
Sally has a question that I was going to get ready to ask you is, who is your favorite comic?
It's like saying, what's your favorite food? It's like, I like pizza. I like salmon. I like eggplant. Sorry about saying salmon.
Yeah, I
So
know. It's gonna. Too bad we can't.
Man, I thought that was a safe, healthy food. Darn my vegan.
Kale.
I know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love Seinfeld. I love. I've just been listening to old stuff lately, whether it's Buddy Hackett. I like, you know, I know it's not good to like Louis C.K. anymore, but he was very funny till he wasn't. Chappelle. I warmed up his first TV show called Buddies. And I love Chris Rock and Wanda Sykes.
Oh my God, Wanda Sykes. You know, I met her once at Jack's. I was walking my dog and she was walking her dog when I lived in LA. And I generally don't bother celebrities ever. If they're with anybody, I'll never go up to them. But she was alone. And I said, excuse me, I just want to tell you, I think you're enormously talented. And she was so nice. And I agree. She is hilarious. Yeah.
And what I like about all these people is they're also very smart. They're thinking of stuff and they're making it clear. And I can't believe that. Eddie Izzard, you know, incredibly funny. And so I like people who kind of break your world open and show you things that you never thought of before.
I can't think of her right. You know, you may not know this. I'm recovering from a very mild traumatic brain injury. I'm fine. Maybe we can do my set about that because I do have a
talked about that in an email. You had a
no, I'm fine. But the reason I'm saying this is because I'm trying to think of this lady's, because it's just a short-term thing. So maybe we can build my act around this because I can say, hey, how can I remember my joke? You know, but
you know, your brain looks fabulous.
Yeah, she did Baby Cobra. I love her, the lady comedian from. Guys, help me out. She's like my favorite stand-up comedian.
Well, Maria Bamford is one of my favorites.
She's beautiful. She's on the show American Housewife. Baby Cobra was her special. Come on, guys. Sharon McRae, if you're watching, we love her. She's Asian. She's gorgeous. Ali Wong.
Oh, okay.
You know who she is?
You know, I do, but I hadn't thought of. Yeah, excellent.
Because I mean, I would, if I could like have a career or be, I mean, like if I'm 60 now, so I'm not trying to compete with anybody, but if I could have I think she is just brilliant and beautiful. And I just love her. Like, I love her comedy. And how come some people can get away with being a little bit blue and other people can't seem to? Like, I always wondered why the rules don't seem to apply to everyone equally.
Well, you know, not everyone can say a swear word and not shock you and some people, we're watching people years into their career, so they've gone into a danger zone and figured out how to work it. There are people who like to push your buttons. That's their comedy style, is to be aggressive or be a little blue or whatever. And it doesn't always work. They've taken the time, months or years, to figure out how to make that work, and they can sell it. There are guys who are aggressive, mean comics, where it's Sarah Silverman's done the aggressive thing. I'm thinking of another woman. I can't think of it. She's a wonderful barbing comic, does a lot of great roasts, but I can't think of her name right now.
Not Gina, not the lady. I can't think of her. Gina, somebody.
Oh yeah, no, not that one. But she's also another example of that. Somebody who comes on rough.
Kathy Griffin.
No, Kathy Griffin. That's another very unique thing. The kind of the acidic barbs kind of thing. You don't just try that on and have it work immediately. Even I have Steve Martin's biography here called Born Standing Up. That crazy guy thing, that took him 2 years every night, you know, sometimes multiple shows a night to figure out how to work. We can't just try that out the first time. When comics come to me in my class and they try to be mean, I go, let's not go there first. In 8 weeks, I'm not sure I can get that to work for you. You know, if you had 2 years, you might be able to work it out. But the first time out, it's not easy to do those. I call those ninja jokes. If you're a ninja, you can fight anybody. But I don't send you in a dark alley the first day of martial arts class and to fight, 8 guys with swords. That's down the road.
Have you ever had to go on stage during one of your showcases and rescue someone?
Let's see. No, I have. I had somebody who wouldn't get off. And,
yeah, what do you do? That's an interesting question, because I have produced 19 conferences, and I'm not going to say the name, but we give the speakers the amount of time, the 60 minutes, and we have like a clock, and then we hold cards up for 15, 10, and 5. And 2 times now I've had speakers not get off, and that's where you wish you had the hook. What do you do in a case like that?
Well, I don't worry about it too much, because I've had over 1,200 students, and this happened twice. So it's not the sort of thing I have a contingency for it every time. Mostly what we do is we edit your act so well that you're out of material and it's 5 minutes. And so you don't have to worry. People are so scared their first time on stage, they're not going to see a little red light flashing. They barely can, remember to breathe. So I make it very, very simple. You just run out of material, you say goodnight, you're done. But once in a while, somebody would just get nervous and just keep talking. And that's, when you just want to yell out, say goodnight.
That's funny. Laurel says, can you comment on physical comedy? AJ, your early spot on Johnny Carson was physical, funny, but how is physical different from verbal comedy?
It's a lovely art form. I mean, I'm a huge fan of physicality. I Red Skelton back when I was a kid was physical comic. Michael Richards studied movement training, and he would wrestle with the mic stand and the stool, and so I'm a fan of it. Not everyone pulls it off particularly well, but Jim Carrey did so much physical comedy when he first came out. He was more of an impressionist than a stand-up, but he could do all these things. I love it. If that's what your gift is, we'll try and find your gift in the first class, and then we pull that out. Everyone brings in a different set of gifts. We never know what they are until we talk to you.
Yeah. Even then, even with a beautifully crafted act, people still get nervous when it's time to go up.
Absolutely. And the weird thing is, it's not bad. Being nervous is fine. A little bit of tension is great. You're always going to be a little nervous. Just means you're serious about it. You don't want to be like, don't worry about it. I haven't worked on this in 3 days. I'm cool. No, that's the one I worry about.
That's funny. Catherine says, Cary, how many times have you been told you look and act like Ed Begley?
Whoa, Ed Begley. Not bad. I'll take that.
Yeah, he's actually vegan and very, very.
I know he is.
Yeah,
he's full on. He had the electric car before anybody did.
That's right. Even before electricity. Boom. No. So let's see there. Oh, Marie says, is Stephen Wright, is he a natural?
Oh, of course. And I think all the guys I work with, the hundreds of comics that worked at the Improv and the Comedy Store back in the 80s, they're all naturals. What made Stephen so amazing is he was deadpan. You know how precise you have to be to write jokes like that? Everything has to be exactly right. There's no room for error in those. His jokes were absolutely crafted like tiny watches. And it's not easy to do that because he doesn't throw them with a lot of power. He just rolls them out. It's like watching a kid bowl. They don't put a lot of juice behind the ball. It's got to be just right down the center. His is amazing.
Nice. One time I saw you perform with, I think, is it Emo? Was Emo?
Emo's an old friend of mine, and we performed together a lot. We were just in Vegas together.
Wow. And that was very good. You were great. Because people are seeing you now more as the teacher. They don't realize how hilarious you are. Is there any way people can see your stand-up locally?
I've got some on YouTube, and now that thank you for reminding me. I'm going to put some old stuff up too, and some new stuff. I have some things online. You can check it out on just do a search for Cary Odes, CaryOdes, and I'll put up a few today. just as a bonus for you guys who do.
Yeah, please, if you put them up, I can link to them when this goes on YouTube. Okay. And Annie says, what did you think of Robin Williams? He was a true genius, wasn't he?
Oh, it was always exciting to watch him work, and both up in San Francisco and down here in at the Improv when he would come down. I get, when you get to watch somebody over and over again, you see like some of the things that you thought were in the moment. Some of them were a little more, oh, he's done that before. Oh, I see. That's a bit. But watching him, especially late at night, walk into a room that people have been on for 3-4 hours, and he's the last comic on at 1:15, and he sees things in the room that no one noticed the whole night. That's what impressed me the most about him, is he can see what everyone walked past and do like 20 minutes on it. Yeah, and also just good energy. He just brought this kind of brightness wherever he was. It wasn't mean or anything like that. It was just like the light got brighter.
Have you ever met Larry David?
Yes, before Larry was famous, he was working at the Improv, and then years later, I was at Callie Curry's birthday party. She wrote Thelma and Louise, and Callie used to be an Improv waitress back in the 80s. So went to her party, and Larry was there, and I just remember his oldest bit. So I told him his oldest bit. He was very happy.
I don't know why. I love him. I mean, especially this last season, it's so timely with what's going on in the world. He
was a great nebbish, even before all that. What he was able to do with Seinfeld and what he's doing, with Curb Your Enthusiasm, it's amazing how brilliant it is and how much it resonates with people. Another guy I learned a lot from was Gary Shandling. That was another guy who created a whole new area of comedy. He changed TV.
Wow. I know that my cousin Sammy took your class many years ago. I think he was 11 at the time. What's the oldest person that's ever taken your class? And guys, type stuff. Who's going to take the class with
I think you? 82. I've had someone who was 82, and I've had someone as young as like 13. So that's been the whole scope. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You're retired, if you're just getting out of school, everyone has something to share. So,
and I just think we need to laugh. I mean, right now, especially, we can't just be watching news 24/7. So this will give you guys
absolutely,
and your mind, and you'll create something that's fantastic, and you'll feel so good for having done it. It's sort of like bungee jumping without the risk of breaking your neck.
Sure, and AJ, you are so great for helping bring your friends out and exposing them to this. One of the things I would say, I have two jobs as a teacher. One is to teach people how to be funny, but the other is to lure them out of their shell. And there's going to be a lot of people listening to you right now, AJ, who are thinking they'd like to do it, but they're too scared. And if they're thinking it, they should, I want to encourage you guys to act on what you're thinking. For once in your life, just say, I want to do that. Why don't I try it? What's the worst that could happen? And if you come out of your shell just a little bit, I will help you get all the way out in an easy way. That's not going to be painful. It won't be embarrassing. You'll come out with a lot more power and confidence from that.
Absolutely. And Catherine's saying, is the class online or in person? It was only in person, Catherine, because of this sheltering in place. This is the first time he's teaching it online. We can do it in our PJs and at
anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the world, actually, and at a substantial discount. So I'm taking it, and I think Charles is taking it, and we know Sally's taking it. So
I've got a student in Berlin. I've had students in Sweden, one in Thailand. So I've taught people all over the world.
Diane is saying, but I can't even retell a joke and make it funny.
Well, maybe that's not what you should do then. Retelling a joke may not be the way you resonate, but I bet you could do comedy just about not being able to tell a joke. That alone could be a very funny bit. I'm sure that would be fun to watch.
Yep,
so it's not trying to be somebody else. That's their funny. We'll find out. I'm sure there's something about you that just will fall out of your mouth that'll be hysterical, without fail.
How come it seemed, because I just turned 60 a week ago, and it seemed like growing up there weren't very many women in comedy. I mean, I remember watching the Ed Sullivan Show. That's how old I am. And there was Joan Rivers, and there was Toady Fields, and
Mhm.
for the Phyllis Diller, and for the longest time that was it. And there was a whole, like, I don't want to say stigma, but back in the day it was like, well, they weren't. I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm saying what I heard, that, well, they weren't pretty enough to be actresses, so they had to be comedians. Do you think that's like still a thing?
No, I don't think that's a thing at all. By the way, look at Lucille Ball. I mean,
Beautiful.
very funny, very attractive. She was a showgirl before that.
Mhm.
So um, it it's not a rule anymore at all. And I've seen so many attractive comics that it seems to have just been, it's now absolutely the lid is done. That's over.
Good, good, good. You talked about about people, like, if they're scared to do it, or if they have an inkling that maybe they want to do it, they should do it. I always think about that. I don't remember if it was John Wooden, but they say that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take in basketball, and it's the
Yeah.
same thing in life. And people that are resonating with this, now you have an opportunity to do it from the safety and comfort of your own home. You don't have to drive to Hollywood, California to get the best comedy teacher in the world to teach you this, which will be a great tool in your toolbox. Before I went to culinary school, when I was 43 years old, my job was an activity director at a retirement home. And so basically,
Oh,
I
really?
yeah, that's all I did all day. Is I played blackjack and poker with the residents, and I exercised with them and took them on outings to the movies and did arts and crafts. And so when they passed away, I was always the one that gave the eulogy, because nobody else there, the nurses, the administration, really knew them like I did. And one of the things I learned from working with people like in their 90s and 100s for that many years is that on their deathbed, they never, ever once regret anything they did, even if it turned out badly. Only regrets that people ever had in life were the shots they didn't take. And so
Yeah.
if you have ever wanted to do this, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, because who knows if this class will ever be offered online at that price again. And I'm sure taking it. And nothing else, even if you don't perform, it's just the structure. It's a fun class. I mean, I enjoy being there, just watching the process of the other people. Some of my favorite parts of class are helping the other people. Like, I can think of one partner I had once named Iris, and just contributing to her set, like, and then watching, saying, Charles, I wrote that joke. Because to me, the writing of the joke is almost funner than the performing of the joke. It's like when you create it, it's like, to me, baking the cake is even more fun than eating the cake. And it's the same thing in comedy. Creating it, it's almost even more fun than delivering it.
Well, you have a natural gift, AJ. I remember one time after you took the class, you asked me to watch you doing one of your presentations in your home. And I've never seen such a well thought out, funny, and tasty evening as that. I still think about that today. You made like a chocolate shake with spinach. That was amazing.
I thank you for coming. So Diane, you want the link. Unfortunately, I can only see, I can't type, but if you scroll all the way to the up at the beginning of this chat, it's www.standupworkshop.com.
The stand-up workshop. Sorry.
Oh, and then I
THE.
typed it wrong. Oh, I didn't put the in it. But in the show notes, I'll make sure I have the website correct. And I'm also going to link to some of Cary's videos so you can see how funny he is. And if you miss Mitch Hedberg, was he a comedian?
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, Mitch was hysterical. I never worked with him though. Unfortunately. Very funny. That's another kind of very precise, like Stephen Wright, low energy but amazing impact. Those jokes, they just hit in your head. But some people throw a joke really hard. Other guys just roll the joke and it explodes inside your own head. Like, oh my God.
It's interesting because you always love the people that laugh, like at least when I'm performing, and you always kind of, your eyes go to them, and you kind of connect with them. I feel bad sometimes because, like, Steve Middleman's my friend, and I'll go to his shows, and I don't laugh aloud a lot. I find things very funny, but because I'm so cerebral, and I sometimes feel bad going to shows, like even going to Jerry Seinfeld, I was enjoying it immensely, but I'm not a person that just always belly laughs. And is that disrespectful to comedians when you just don't?
There's a joke about that. The comedians tell each other, here's an impression of a comedian laughing. That's funny. And you can never judge a crowd by how loud they laugh. I remember I was working in Minneapolis, and great room, and I did my 45 minutes or something like that. It was pretty darn quiet. And I thought, oh man, this is terrible. And a woman came up to me, a very old lady, and she goes, I want you to know we come here every week, and my husband and I, and that's the most fun I've ever had. I went, oh, okay. That's just, you have a very quiet way of having the most fun you've ever had.
Yeah, that's great. Gina wants to know, what was your first big break, Cary?
Let's see. Well, it happened almost to the day, many years ago. I was in Chicago in March doing my taxes on my mom's house, and I got a newspaper article had come out in the LA Times the night before, and I got a call from Paramount Pictures asking what I was doing tomorrow. I said, hi, this is Paramount Pictures. We saw an article about you. We'd like you to come out tomorrow to LA and audition for a TV show. So the next morning I was out on a plane at 7 in the morning. I came to LA, performed at the Comedy Store that night, and Mitzi Shore said, you're funny, you can work here anytime you want.
Wow.
And the next day I was a regular at the Comedy Store. I never went home.
That's great. Catherine says, where did you grow up?
Chicago.
Okay. Like me. Yeah.
Where'd you grow up in Chicago?
7701 South Luella Avenue, and my house is affordable right now, but I don't want to live there.
No.
But I could afford it. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful house on the south side of Chicago. Yeah.
God, my dad, his office was 71st and Cicero. So he was a dentist, but I grew up in a western suburb, very boring.
How about Jim Gaffigan? Love his clean humor, like Seinfeld and Brian Regan. I love Brian Regan. Genius
stuff. I use a lot of Jim Gaffigan in teaching. His bit on McDonald's, for instance, is just perfect. There's so much to learn from every line of what he does. Big fan.
Like, it's funny because when you think about qualities you want in a mate or a partner, a lot of times, especially women, women don't seem to be quite as driven by looks. Some are, as men seem to be, but you always hear like sense of humor, but it doesn't seem like men don't really put that high on the list of what they want in a woman, like to be funny, Well,
I know my comic friends and my own proclivity is I like somebody who's got a good laugh. So if somebody can laughs well, I'm a happy guy. Yeah. That just means I'm doing shows all the time. So a good sense of humor is a delight. You want someone who gets you. Someone who gets what you're saying and shares it with you and bounces it back and forth. That can be a lot of fun. I need it. If someone doesn't have a sense of humor, I feel like they don't understand half of who I am.
Yeah. Now, Gina says, yes, make me laugh. So I don't know if that's an order to Cary or me right now to try to make you laugh, or you're saying that in general.
That's always a hard setup.
Yeah.
That's
it's so funny because, I don't, like, even when I was doing real acting and stuff, I never really went out and said, I'm a comedian, I'm an actress, because my fear was, you tell somebody you're a comedian and then like you'll be at a party, you're meeting people, they go, well, say something funny. When you meet somebody at the party, like, oh, I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, go, well, do lung surgery,
hold on, I've been having this trouble with my aorta.
That's why this is why I think improv to me means just improvising. It doesn't necessarily say comedy, but stand up, the word comedy follows it. And I feel like there's such a pressure to be funny if you're doing stand up.
Well, that you opened a whole interesting entire area of, the pressure to be funny. And we'll teach in class that you dissolve that expectations, because you don't want the people to be going, come on, hurry, tell me you're joking, you trying too hard. Hey, what's funny? That's not how comedy works well. But it's tough to have someone say, be funny now. I mean, I got pulled over by a cop once out in Joshua Tree on the way home from a gig with Emo Phillips. And guy goes, you've been drinking? I went, no, I just did a show. I'm wearing a suit. He goes, really, you're a comedian? Tell me a joke. It's like, to get out of a ticket, I had to be funny.
And did you get out of the ticket?
I did, yes.
Did you remember what the joke was?
No, I don't remember that one, no.
If that ever happened to me, I've got it already, my cop joke. I've got it. I mean, I got it already,
Wow.
I mean, I could tell it now if you want, but I mean, you've probably heard it. It's not really a cop joke, but it has a cop in it. So the way my brain works is I'm one of these people. I don't really think of myself as a comedian, but I do love to tell jokes because all the years I worked with seniors, what was great is and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, because they had dementia, I could tell the same few jokes over and over and keep getting laughs because
it's a dream job.
No, really. And so there were a few jokes, and this was one of them that they loved. And the reason, and so when I was working, I'd say, well, just give me a category. And they'd say dentist or golf. And then I'd have 10 jokes I could tell because I have sort of an endemic memory and could memorize stuff really well. But I already have my cop joke ready. If I haven't been pulled, watch, I'll get pulled over. But well, actually, we're not driving right now, but haven't probably been pulled over in 20 years. But if a cop ever did that to me, and you probably heard this joke, but I love it. No disrespect to anybody that lives in Butte, Montana. But one of my favorite jokes that my grandfather would tell me is this couple was driving down the 405 freeway. They're from Butte, Montana, and they get pulled over by a California Highway patrolman. And so the officer knocks on the guy's window, and the guy rolls the window down, and the officer says, "I need to see your driver's license and registration, please." Now, the wife who's sitting next to the husband, she's very hard of hearing. And she goes, "What did he say? What did he say?" And the husband says, "Dear, he needs to see my driver's license and registration." "Oh, okay." So the man hands him his driver's license and registration, and the policeman looks at the license. He goes, "I see that you're from Butte, Montana." And the wife goes, "What did he say? What did he say?" Remember, she's hard of hearing. He goes, "Dear, when he looked at my license, he noticed I was from Butte, Montana." "Oh, okay." The cop looks at the license again and says, "You know, I had the worst sex of my life in Butte, Montana." And the wife goes, "What'd he say?" "He says he knows you." So that's my favorite joke from my grandpa. And that is my cop joke. So if a cop pulls me over, that's what he's going to get.
That's fantastic. Now I want to get pulled over. I'm going to start driving. I'm going to pull the registration off my license plate.
Absolutely. So Jesse says, what does Cary think of Mike Birbiglia's humor?
Well, Mike is incredibly talented, and I really like him. I'm not always sure I would call it stand-up. There's a borderline between storytelling or spoken word and stand-up, and you can't always do one in the other room. If somebody's there in a theater and they came sober and they're expecting theater and you're the funniest guy in the theater, that's one thing. But if they're drunk and they're at a stand-up room and you're doing spoken word, it doesn't always work. I don't say anything against Mike. It's just, he's so brilliant at what he does. It's almost hard to teach. He's doing a lot of phrasing and all this interesting in and out stuff that's just a natural gift he has. It's hard to teach that. So I don't always use him as my example of somebody that's easy to copy.
Nice. You know, earlier when we were talking about physical comedy, you mentioned Michael Richards, and I always think of him as what not to do if you're being heckled. And, you know, back in the day, I would imagine comedians could go after audience members. I mean, never about race or things like that, but now we have to be so politically correct that we almost can't say anything to anybody these days.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to weigh in on that. I know Michael is a great guy. I've known him for many years. Anyone can crack. And I wasn't there, you know, I haven't even really studied what he did that night. I know anyone can crack, and I know it's a terrible thing. My first year on stage, I remember getting into an argument with somebody and I didn't know the rules yet. And I tried just yelling at him. And then I suddenly realized, oh my God, I'm not a comic anymore. I'm just a guy yelling. And the whole room shifted, and I'd lost the kind of the halo around the comic. It can happen to anybody if you get pushed. You have to really learn to let anything fall off you. And there are times when a comic can't end the session. It has to be the manager walking over and going, "Sir, you have to be quiet. We're trying to do a show." And sometimes throwing them out. So there are certain things a comic can't do from the stage. Those are the worst case scenarios. I mean, this is like once every 20 years this stuff happens. So,
and they've never happened in one of your classes. And plus, guys, if you're taking the class with me online, we're not going to be performing in a...
AJ's the worst heckler you're going to get.
No, I'm not. I really...
She's going to go, "I smell meat on your breath." What is it? What do you have? Steak? I can smell it
That's
online.
funny. I think for people, I would imagine that because you had 1,200 students, you have 1,200 5-minute sets probably from all these students, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you, I'm always thinking of how to help people with business. Why don't you like have them on your website so people can see what's possible? So,
That sounds like a very good idea. I
I'm
should
very
talk to
good
you
at
more
helping.
often.
Well, no, it's true. I teach business. Well, I don't publicize it. I do teach business classes to help people with their business. But I'm thinking that because, people watching maybe don't know who you are just because I know you. And I would think if I was scared to take a class and you had a few sets up from people like, that have never done it before, like the guy that was the anesthesiologist or the girl that was the real estate agent, you realize, hey, this is their first time. I can do it too, because it's amazing how you structure the showcase. Like, I don't know your process, but it always works and the order is always right. Cause I'm one of these people that's like, Cary, please get me up right away. Cause if you kick me to the end, I'll freak out. So he's always done that for me, like either first or close to first, but it with the different personalities that it just always works.
Yeah,
Guys, take the class.
it takes a couple hours to figure out how to really mesh everyone in, and people go, am I gonna? Yeah, I don't tell them about how it is. I just go, we're going by height.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, guys, I don't want to keep you. I try not to keep my guests more than an hour. If you have any last minute questions for Cary, type them in. Realize I can read, but I can't type. So if you'd like to find out more about his work, the stand-up workshop, and very soon we're going to have some videos because a lot of you want to see his performances, and I'll put a link to my performances of material that I created in his class with him as my teacher. His classes are starting up soon. They're a fraction of the cost of what they would be if you took him in person in LA, and we can all be together on Zoom in very, very small classes, less than nine people or less. Instead of having 30 people in our class, there'll be 9 or less. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun, and it'll help you in all areas of your life, because I think a lot of comedy is just being present in the moment. And today, everybody is on their phone and they're listening to the news 24 hours a day, and you can't be a good comedian or even a good audience if you're on your phone. And what you'll learn in the class will help you in whatever your profession, even if you have no profession, because it's really about listening and paying attention and finding those parts of yourselves that you didn't even know was there, and it's just fun, and it's just what we need now is to laugh. And just taking this class, Cary wasn't as funny as I know him to be here, but in class, when he
I know.
yeah. No, what I mean, well, you were being professional, but like when I say Cary makes fun of us, it's not that he makes fun of us, but he does this thing. And I can't even explain it, because I end up like, I mentioned earlier on this broadcast that I'm one of these people that don't laugh out loud very much, but in his class, he kind of riffs when he's trying to draw something out of us. And then
we have so much fun in the class, AJ, as you remember, and it's fun. It's therapeutic. People go, this is cheaper than therapy. So we'll solve all your problems, and you'll have a good time doing it. And you don't have to put on pants.
It's true, because when I think of some of the previous classes, even the last one, this whole lady basically worked out that she was going to leave her husband through the class. It's like the first week. No, do you remember? And I don't think I'm saying anything that she didn't say. The first week she was having problems with her husband, and by the showcase, she was getting a divorce because she worked it out all the whole weeks,
Well, just so you know, I've also brought people back together again. I have people who are going to be divorced, and I kept them together. So don't worry. You won't need a lawyer to take the class.
Have you ever had Siamese or conjoined twins in your class? Because I would think that would be a fascinating kind of student to work with, like how you would do the act.
Wow. No, I haven't even had twins in my class. So no, that's fascinating though.
No, actually, I know some twins and they're vegan. They're not conjoined, but I'm going to and they're actresses. I'm going to suggest to them they take the class with me, because what do you got to lose, guys?
So much fun.
If you listen to Dr. McDougall this morning, he said we could be in for another 3 to 6 months. So let's do something other than watch the news, because if it does change, it's only going to get worse probably before it gets better. So that's that. So anything else you want to say, Cary?
I just want to say, always look at the funny side of things. The class will help you that. And we wash our hands every 5 minutes.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Nice. Well, thank you, Cary. I look forward to connect. Oh, okay. Wait. Catherine wants to know. Okay. So we're at the end now, so why don't you exactly explain the class, because we do have some serious interest from Catherine. Catherine, I hope you'll take it, because Sally, who's also in mastery with you and me, is going to take it. She wants to know, is the class once a week? So maybe you could say
It's once a week. There's Tuesday night classes at 7:30 to 10:30, so 7 to 10 on Tuesday nights, and Saturday, which is the class that AJ is going to be in, is Saturday morning from 10:30 to 1:30. And we'll have 8 classes. After the 7th class, we'll arrange for a showcase on an evening time, and we'll broadcast that one live, and then we'll have a final class after that. So it's really 9 events.
right. And so the final class is where he looks at your set, and then it kind of just says, hey, you did this really well, and this is, I mean, it's always, he's very positive. Yes, yes, he's talking Pacific time, Catherine. So if you were taking it on the East Coast, you'd probably want to be in the Saturday class, because otherwise you'd be starting at 10:30 p.m.
You know something, I hadn't thought worldwide when I came up with these times. So yes, if we need to add something earlier on a weeknight for other people, if there's enough of you, we'll add a class that is evening for the East Coast.
Right.
We can do that.
And Gina wants to know, is it Zoom? Yes, I assume he'll give us all a link, just like I gave him a link, and we click it. And I've done many classes this way. As a matter of fact, this is how I teach all of my classes. So it's a great format, and Zoom almost never doesn't work. Those of you that were there today when I was experiencing technology problems, it wasn't Zoom that wasn't working, it was Restream, which is monitoring the chat. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in class, and I hope you guys will come. Jesse's saying, AJ, you always see the silver lining in everything. It's true, because that's how my mama brought me up. Yes, Sally, it is Pacific time. So when we start at 10:30, you'll start at 1:30. So, which is good, because it's after lunch. You won't be hungry. All right.
Thank you so much, AJ.
Thanks, Cary Odes. Guys, come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Well, I'll be interviewing Dr. Nate Gershwell from the Fasting Escape, and you never know who's going to pop up on Chef AJ Live during this time of sheltering. Thanks again, Cary. Hope to see all you guys in class. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.